Welcome to Built for Battle, where we try to bring out the best in every Pokemon available. I'm Just Weevil, and today we're going to be showcasing Inteleon, the sharpshooter who never misses its mark. Let's set our sights on the moveset. First we have Snipe Shot, the signature move of Inteleon, a stab water type move with a high crit ratio, able to knock out powerful fire types like Cinderace and Ceruledge. Second, we have Ice Beam, a solid coverage move able to take out grass and dragon types like Dragonite and Rillaboom with ease. Third, we have Vacuum Wave, giving us solid special priority, able to pick off weakened Pokemon such as Darkrai and Kingambit. Finally, we have Flip Turn, giving us momentum by attacking our opponent before switching into a better matchup. I gave it the item choice specs to maximize our damage outputs, and the EV spread is pretty straightforward. 252 EVs in special attack and speed is all you need here, with a timid nature to ensure it outspeeds as much as possible. Oh yeah, we're Terra Water too for that extra bit of damage. One build, two battles, let's show what Inteleon can really do. But before we dive in, if you want to be featured in one of these videos, be sure to join the Discord as I take all my battles in there. Link in the description. So with that being said, let's jump into the first game. As you can see, Puff's brought a pretty cool looking team with the Meganium that stands out to me. Reuniclus is always cool to see as well, and the Inteleon, I mean, this is an Inteleon video, so you gotta have Inteleon somewhere on both teams, right? And they've even got their own Persian. They've got their fat-headed Persian, and I've got the skinny one. Looking at this, I kind of figured I'd just leave with Persian, get the fake out off. They haven't got ghost type, so I could just do that. Potentially knock something off and go for a U-turn, and then kind of go from there. And the battle begins. So, Puff ended up leading off with Sharpshooter, his own Inteleon, as I led off with my Persian, as I said in the team preview. Persian seemed like the right lead. So immediately I'm thinking, let's go for Fake Out. And there it is, Fake Out came through. Let's see how much damage it does. It did about a third of its HP, which is really cool. Obviously, it flinches it. That's a natural. But Inteleon does outspeed us, so I'm going to have to get out of here. And the best Pokemon I could think to go into at the time was my Wo-Chien. It is an Assault Vest variant. It's got really high special defense and HP. And it's obviously resistant to Snipe Shot, but it is weak to the Ice Beam potential. And also 4 times weak to U-turn potentially. They did go for a U-turn, obviously predicting the Wo-Chien switch. Very good play on my opponent's behalf because it's going to do a good amount of damage to my Wo-Chien. And since we are on a Assault Vest set, we don't have much recovery outside of Giga Drain. My opponent decided to go into Daisy the Unrivaled, which is the Meganium now. They were not expecting this, I don't believe. This is definitely going to catch my opponents off guard. So I go ahead and terastallize my Wo-Chien into a nice and powerful fire-type Pokemon because if you haven't seen the Wo-Chien video, go check it out. It was a pretty fun one to make as well. Wo-Chien is definitely one of them Pokemon that I really like the shiny of more than the original. But we gave that Terra Blast. They weren't expecting this at all. Should do a lot of damage to the Meganium, I was thinking at the time, and it does indeed do over half, which is really nice. They go for a knockoff though and get rid of our Assault Vest. However, because we outspeed them and we could potentially KO them here, they pretty much have to switch out. So thinking that they would switch out, which they did, I decided to go for a Giga Drain, predicting something else to come in like a Slowbro. They did in fact go into Shell Bell, which is the Slowbro, so we made the right play there. We went for the Giga Drain, and it does minimal damage to this thing, confirming that the Slowbro is most likely a Assault Vest variant of some kind. But we obviously can't stay in here. We're a fire type, whatever. But I figured I'd do some damage scouting. So I went for a Leaf Storm just to see how much damage it would do, and it very nearly gets the job done, but does fall short, confirming to me that they are definitely an Assault Vest variant, as that Scald comes through, and a lack of an Assault Vest means that Scald does not do, well, it does a bit too much damage for my like. So I kind of figured they might want to switch out here, so I went for another Terra Blast just to try and pick off something. They did switch out the Slowbro, and they decided to go into Jelly the Rank Master, which is of course the Reuniclus. So Terra Blast, unfortunately, because we got lowered special attack, isn't going to do too much damage to this Reuniclus, but does a bit of chip. Love a bit of chip. A bit of chip here and there, it'll do you good, you know? You're gonna hit, one of your 5 chips a day. I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, I really struggled to find a switch in for this Reuniclus because I didn't know what it would do. So I decided to go into Cashnip the Persian real quick, and just to see what they would do. I figured I'll be able to take a Psychic from this thing unless it specs. They go for a Psy Shock, which hits on the defensive side, and it nearly gets the job done on the Persian. But because Persian isn't alive and healthy, we can very easily go for a Fake Out plus knockoff combination on this thing if we really want to. But I was a bit hesitant to do that because of that Great Tusk with a Rocky Helmet. However, I did go ahead and do it anyway. I figured, why not? We went for the Fake Out. It does a nice chunky damage to Reuniclus. They did not switch into Great Tusk. And of course it flinches the Reuniclus. Now they do have leftovers, which was getting a bit annoying because you have to sit through the animation every now and then. So I decided to go for a U-turn anyway. I didn't want my Persian to go down just yet because that Fake Out could be really useful against their Inteleon later. So I decided to U-turn out, not wanting my Cashnip to go down just yet. However, I don't have the best switches. But since they went for Psyshock, which hits on the defensive side, on the physical side, I decided to go into Hammerhead, the Landorus, because I knew it's got some nice physical bulk. It's not invested, but it can definitely take a Psyshock. They did go for the Psyshock on the switch, and it does under half, which is fantastic for us. So now I was thinking, I'll get my Stealth Rocks up. That's going to help with any switching, chipping away at their team. I think Landorus has definitely got this when it comes to the Stealth Rocks. They go for a Recover. Now, Recover, unfortunately, is a bit problematic for me. I don't want to play a stall game with Reuniclus, but I do have the Taunt or the Earthquake, whichever I want to go for, and I decided to go for the Earthquake to scout how much damage it would do. It does over half, which is fantastic, which means even after this Psyshock, which doesn't KO me, I'm able to go for another Earthquake here and potentially KO this Reuniclus. And that is exactly what I went for, but they did switch out the Reuniclus here, so what did they go into? Of course, it's going to be Daisy the Unrivaled, the Meganium. So Meganium comes in, it takes some Stealth Rock chip, and I think they were just letting it go down here, because this Earthquake, it doesn't do the trick. It doesn't do the trick, unfortunately. So we do outspeed because we are max speed Jolly, of course, so I'm not too worried about that. What I can do now is I can go for a U-turn, get on out of there, which is exactly what I did do, and then we take the Meganium out. It's one less Pokemon to deal with. I really want to use Meganium again. I'm in such a Meganium mood right now. And now we bring in the big guns. One shot the Inteleon. Let's see what they bring in to counteract this now that the Meganium's out of the picture. They bring in the Slowbro. A pretty good switch if I do say so myself. And they get the Stealth Rocks up. It's being Assault Vested and everything. It can probably take a Dark Pulse. But we don't even have Dark Pulse. We have Snipe Shots. Snipe Shot's pretty much the best I could actually do here. So there we go. The Shell Bell's going to go on back to Puff over there. And Jelly, the Rank Master's going to come in. Can you take a Snipe Shot, though? I don't think you can. No, you cannot. It was a good play to switch out the Slowbro there, though, because obviously they get a Regenerator, and then being a Assault Vest means that they can definitely take us on in the 1v1 setting. And they bring in their own Inteleon now. So it's an Inteleon versus Inteleon fight. We have more health than them, but they could have Air Slash or Dark Pulse. We unfortunately do not have those options. So I figured my best bet was to go into Landorus Therian just to sack it off, and then we could get a free switch in something else to deal with this Inteleon. As there we go, Hammerhead's going to come in, and unfortunately, we'll go down to whatever this Inteleon wants to go for, unless he goes for U-turn. They did go for a Dark Pulse, though, which is going to take us out. So Landorus, you did your job. You did good. You did a lot of damage. You KO'd the Meganium. You did good, Chief. Now, I'm never going to use you again for a long time. So I decided, let's go into Cashnip, the Persian. And the reason being is because I wanted to weaken this thing with Fake Out as much as I can before I bring my own Inteleon in and just Snipe Shot this thing in the face. They did, however, withdraw their Inteleon, and they decided to go into their Clay, which is going to be the Great Tusk. Great Tusk is obviously a great Pokemon to bring in any matchup. Absolutely love Great Tusk, one of my favorite new Pokemon in Gen 9. Fake Out comes through. They are Rocky Helmets, so we do have to be very careful here. And I'm running out of options, unfortunately. So I decided to go ahead and switch out Persian and go into my Cerulege. Cerulege, I figured, you know what, they're probably going to go for a CC here or a Rapid Spin to get a speed boost. They actually decided to go for a knockoff, which is going to go ahead and activate our weak armor, as well as knocking off our Focus Sash. Now, the Focus Sash being knocked off isn't a big deal, really, but it is what it is. So I figured, you know what, now I'm going to go for a Poltergeist, and we attacked him with their Rocky Helmet. It's going to do a decent bit of chip damage. That's all I really wanted from this matchup, as they go for an Earthquake. Now, we get a free switch into our glorious Inteleon over here. Inteleon can definitely go for a Snipe Shot and just KO this thing. It'll do some decent damage to the Slowbro as well, potentially. But either way, I'm bringing Inteleon in here to take out this Great Tusk. So here we go. Now, we go straight for a Snipe Shot. They still don't know necessarily that we don't have Dark Pulse. So they still withdraw anyway. Probably, if I was them, I would have gone into the Slowbro. And that's exactly what they're going to do. So Shell Bell comes back in, the Slowbro, gets some Stealth Rock chip, and we should be two-shotting this thing with Snipe Shot from here. So Snipe Shot comes through. No, I really overestimated my Inteleon's power. So I decided, you know what, Inteleon, come back. You can't do anything to this Slowbro. It's just going to ruin your life. And I decided to go into Cashnip real quick. The Persian, this thing's probably all attacks because of the fact that it's an Assault Vest variant, and so it revealed it's got Psyshock. Cashnip is just getting hit by Psyshocks left, right, and center. And I figured, you know what, it's time for Wo-Chien to come in. Wo-Chien can go for a Leaf Storm, take this thing out. I don't think Giga Drain would KO from here. It might actually KO from here, to be fair. So I went for the Giga Drain anyway. I figured, you know what, why not? And it did actually KO, so I was pretty happy with that outcome. Get a little bit of health back on my Wo-Chen, which is always nice. And there, down goes the Slowbro, which is absolutely fantastic. That thing was the bane of Inteleon's existence. And now I don't really think there is anything on that team that could have withstand Inteleon's attacks right now. So they bring in Clay, the ranked master, the Great Tusk. Get some Stealth Rock Chip, obviously. They have to go for an Earthquake here, pretty much. But we have got to switch in Galarian Weezing. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. Wo-Chen's going to come on back. We are a levitating Galarian Weezing. No neutralizing gas, no misty terrain. We're going to go into, yes sir, the Galarian Weezing. They did go for a Rapid Spin, though, to try and get that speed boost, which is kind of worrying, but at the same time, not so worrying, because, like I said, Galarian Weezing pretty much walls this thing to no ends of the earth. There's nothing this Great Tusk can actually do to touch us, so I'm just going to go ahead and go for a Strange Steam and get the damage off on the Great Tusk. So they go for a knockoff, which is a fair play. Get rid of our residual healing every turn, the leftovers, and we just go for that Strange Steam, and it should do the trick, if they're not Assault Vest. And of course it doesn't do the trick. So down goes the Great Tusk, which is absolutely fantastic. Sharpshooter the Unrivaled comes back in there. Inteleon. Obviously I'm a bit worried about this with my Weezing, but at the same time, what are my options here? So I decided to just go for a Sludge Bomb. Maybe see what kind of set this Inteleon is, as it does one-shot me with a Snipe Shot, confirming that they're most likely a Choice Specs variant, especially considering the fact that that wasn't even a crit. So I figured, you know what, they're locked into a Water move. Let's go into one-shot. We'll scare them out. Maybe we've got Dark Pulse and we're Choice Specs as well. They don't know. So I'll go for a Vacuum Wave. I figured that might actually KO them, but it doesn't KO them, as they go for a Snipe Shot, doing well over half damage to us. So I should have just risked the Speed Tide there, because then I wouldn't have had to switch out, but it is what it is. We go for another Vacuum Wave, taking out their Inteleon in one clean hit with a critical hit, which is absolutely fantastic, and down goes Sharpshooter the Inteleon. Mittens, the once well-trained, comes in. That is going to be their Alolan Persian, and unfortunately for us, or unfortunately for them, is that last remaining Pokemon. Now, this could be a nasty plot set for all I know, so I've got to be real careful what I do here. So we withdraw the Inteleon, and we're going to go into Wo-Chen. Wo-Chen's job here is to basically just be fodder, so I can come in with Inteleon again and Snipe Shot this thing in the face. But Tabba's Room is going to activate. Not that it really matters against their Persian, especially considering, you'll see in a minute, they're going to Terrastallize into... And the Terastallization is an interesting choice. It's definitely, like, it adds more power to the Dark-type stab moves, so they go for a Terra Dark, which is fine. Alolan Persian is one of them Pokemon where I don't really know what it likes to do, so they go for a Snarl. Snarl is a sound-based move, and it also lowers the opponent's special attack on use against them, so it does lower our special attack, and then they have the Throat Spray. So now they are a deadly special attacker with +1 special attack, and I don't know what to do, so I just go for a Leaf Storm. Obviously, I'm going to go down here. Wo-Chen's not going to get to pull off this Leaf Storm. It's all going to come down to Inteleon. So there's the Chilling Water, which I didn't even know this thing got Chilling Water until this battle, which is crazy. So, yeah, Wo-Chen goes down, unfortunately. It did have a good little run there in the battle, so shout out to Wo-Chen. But the Inteleon is definitely the MVP of this one. So Inteleon comes in now, and I don't think we KO with a Snipe Shot, even though we're Choice Specs. They are frail, but I'm pretty sure that this next move matters. We go for a Snipe Shot, and a very fitting end to an Inteleon battle this close is that it came down to a crit with Snipe Shot with Sniper ability. I don't think that would have KO'd without the crit, to be honest with you, but it might have done. I don't want to run the calcs though. But anyway, GG Puff, that was a fun one. Okay, the second battle is against Torvex from the Pokemon Battle Hub Discord, of course, and they have a very threatening team. The Iron Moth is a big threat, Rillaboom as well, King Gambit, Latios, Hazarine, Samurai Zoe, all big threats. Very, very good Pokemon. Really a well-constructed team. It's going to be hard to break down this one, but I'm going to do my best. And the battle begins. Good luck, have fun to Torvex. The battle's already took place, but yes, you get me. They lead off with Hisuian Samurais. I led off with my Persian. Persian's been my go-to lead every single battle with this team, to be honest with you. It's a great lead. Really enjoyed using Persian, to be honest with you. So naturally, I decided to go for a Fake Out straight away. Break a potential Focus Sash, flinch this thing so he can't see Sedge, and do a bit of damage. Now I'm thinking, let's U-turn out of here. They do withdraw the Samurott. Obviously, you may be expecting something, I don't know. And they go into King Gambit, which is a fine switch. It's going to be able to, well, he's not going to be bothered about the U-turn too much. So we go for that U-turn. It's nice and shiny as well. I want a shiny King Gambit, but I have no luck when it comes to the cool shinies. Anyway, Persian, come on back. Let's send in something more reliable to take on this King Gambit. It was a bit of a risk because the Intimidate could activate Defiant, but they're usually Supreme Overlord. So I decided to go into Landorus, lower their attack a bit, and they aren't Defiant, which is great. They are, in fact, Supreme Overlord. And they have got the Leftovers item, which is also really good to know. So this matchup's kind of cool for us because we can just go straight for a Stealth Rocks and not have to worry about any major damage. So they do withdraw the King Gambit, which is fine by me. And they don't want to get hit by an Earthquake. That makes a lot of sense. And they're going to go into Samurott, which is an interesting one. So with Samurott in, we get the Stealth Rocks up. They're now up. And it was a risk going for the Stealth Rocks anyway because of the Hat Stream. But it is what it is, you know. So now I figured I'm going to get on out of there with Landorus. I don't want to get hit by a Razor Shell. It definitely KO my Landorus from there. I'm going to go into Wo-Chien just to try and wall this thing and hope it doesn't go for a Sacred Sword on switching. As we do get the Tablet of Ruin lowering this attack. They did in fact go for a Ceaseless Edge, which is going to do a little bit of damage, nothing too drastic, and it's going to get the spikes up on our side of the field. But no dramas. We've got the defog on the Wheezing. It's not the end of the world. I decided, you know what? I'm just going to go for a Giga Drain. As they actually decided to go for a Sacred Sword, it will not KO my Wo-Chien, unfortunately. As Giga Drain, on the other hand, will take out the Hisuian Samurott, which is fantastic, and restore some of our health. So Wo-Chien's looking pretty good. You get a nice KO with Wo-Chien. Gotta love it. So they did get one layer of spikes, so that's something to watch out for later. They decided to go into Iron Moth. Iron Moth makes a lot of sense. Now, we could play the whole Terrifier thing here with the Iron Moth, but we don't know what this thing's got on its moveset. They do have the Quark Drive boost from the Booster Energy, boosting their special attack. We're in a bit of a pickle here. I don't really know what to do at this point. So I decided, you know what, Wo-Chien, come on back. We could probably use you later. And I'll go into my Ceruledge. Now, Ceruledge is there to resist both stabs on this thing for a start. Spike's going to dig in, breaking our sash, unfortunately, but they go for an agility. Now, I'm a bit worried about this particular matchup now that they've got an agility up. I don't know what they're going to go for. We can't go for Poltergeist. The only thing I really can go for is a Bitter Blade. The reason I can't go for a Poltergeist is because they've already consumed their item, so I can't attack you with that. They go for a Sludge Wave, though. It's not even going to do half, which is fantastic. And Bitter Blade's going to recover enough health to where even if they got a really high roll there, it doesn't matter. So Ceruledge is winning this 1v1 with the Iron Moth, which is absolutely fantastic. I really like Ceruledge. Such a cool Pokemon. They go for another Sludge Wave. Obviously, it's going to do a bit of damage. Nothing too drastic. No poison, which is nice. And then we go for a Bitter Blade, which will take out the Iron Moth, which is fantastic. So we're off to a really good start with this game. Inteleon hasn't really had to lift a finger yet, which is fantastic. But this overall game, the main reason I'm uploading on the Inteleon video is because it was just a really good game. They decided to go into Latios now. This is a bit of a pickle for me. So Ceruledge, I don't really know what to do other than maybe going into the Wo-Chien. So I decided, you know what, they're more than likely going to drop a Draco. Let's go into Galarian Wheezing to be immune to that Draco. That'd be absolutely great. So yes, sir's going to come in like so. And they decided to go for a Luster Purge on the switch. So that actually works out better for us, for them, sorry. Because they get rid of the Galarian Wheezing. And that means spikes are up to stay, unfortunately, on our side of the field. That was a bad play on my behalf. Luster Purge was pretty obvious. I don't know why I assumed they drop a Draco. Maybe I thought that the Wo-Chien would come in and that was an obvious switch. So I decided to go into Wo-Chien. Now that they've revealed they have Luster Purge, they could be Choice Specs for all I know, you know what I mean? So banking on them potentially being Choice Specs, and also the fact that I know I can live a Draco Meteor from this thing, I figured I'd go into Wo-Chien and just go straight for the kill. So they go for a Draco, which is unfortunately not going to KO my Wo-Chien from there. They lower their special attack harshly. We go for a Dark Pulse at maximum output. It still doesn't KO. Very disappointing in Wo-Chien here. Very disappointing in Wo-Chien. But there's nothing much I can really do. So I decided to try for another Dark Pulse. They obviously have Aura Sphere though, and that's going to be able to take out my Wo-Chien despite their special attack drop on our Assault Vest. It was just too low a health to take anything from this thing, you know what I mean? So now I'm thinking, you know what? Let's bring in Persian, get a Fake Out off on this thing, and potentially, well, I will KO it with Fake Out, unless they switch out, of course. We go for the Fake Out. That's going to cleanly take out the Latios from the health that it's at, which is fantastic. And that's one big threat out of the way, to be honest with you. In comes the Rillaboom, though. Rillaboom is a bit of a threat. I'm pretty confident that Grassy Glider will not probably take us out if they're Choice Banded. So they get the Grassy Surge up, which is fantastic for them. I wish I had Wheezing still. Wheezing would be so useful here. But it just didn't. So I decided to go for a knockoff anyway. I'm kind of risking it with the Grassy Glide. They did have the Miracle Seed, so they weren't banded. And they go for their own knockoff, which is going to knock off our Heavy Duty Boots. Now, that's not too bad of an outcome, but this turn, Grassy Glide will definitely KO my Persian. So I decided to switch out and go into Landorus. Landorus obviously having an Intimidate ability, lowering the attack of the Rillaboom on the switch. And so in comes the Hammerhead now. There we go. Intimidate's going to activate and lower the Rillaboom's attack. They go for a knockoff, which is going to do a little bit of damage, nothing too drastic. But they do get hit by the Rocky Helmet on turn. after knocking it off, of course. So now I'm like, I'm going to go for a U-turn. They probably don't stay in here. They did stay in, and U-turn does take out a lot of its HP, to be fair. But all I can really do now is, literally all I can really do now is just sack something off at this point. All right, Persian comes in, which is great. Absolutely fantastic. He's going to get hurt by spikes, and they go for a Swords Dance. So I'm very afraid of this Rillaboom right now. This Rillaboom could easily ruin my entire life. We need to take care of it somehow. We do have the Vacuum Wave on the Inteleon, which should KO. Maybe I should have brought that in as well. But they do withdraw the Rillaboom, which is an interesting choice. So what do they go into, though? That's a real question. King Gambit is going to come in. So with King Gambit in, nice and shiny, gotta love it. Stealth Rocks do dig in, of course. I don't want to get swept by King Gambit, unfortunately, but it might happen. So we go for the Fake Out. It's obviously going to do minimal damage to this thing. And then they're going to get all that health back thanks to the grassy terrain and the leftovers they're holding. So I decided to go for a Thunder Wave here on the King Gambit. Made a lot of sense to me, just in case they went for a Sucker Punch for a start. But also just to try and get them fully paralyzed, as it did work the first time. So King Gambit doesn't get a Swords Dance up now, which is fantastic. All I really need to do now is get rid of that Leftovers, because Leftovers is getting pretty annoying, right? So I go for a U-turn instead of the knockoff. I figured, you know what, I'm just going to get some chip damage off on this thing. The grassy terrain's gone. I can probably afford to switch out my Persian and go into something else. So I go for that U-turn, and now I'm like, what do? I go into Landorus, get the Intimidate off. That's going to be the greatest play I could ever do, really, against this King Gambit. Because the last thing I need is to be swept. But they go for a Kato Cleave, which is going to do enough damage to nearly KO our Landorus. So that's unfortunate, but it is what it is, you know? So now I decided to go for a Taunt, just to stop it from Swords Dancing and potentially sweeping through my entire team. They didn't attempt to Sucker Punch, though, and they just went straight for a Kato Cleave. So that was kind of making me think, hey, maybe we don't have Sucker Punch on this King Gambit. It was leading me into a false sense of security that this thing didn't have Sucker Punch. So now I decided to go into one shot, the Inteleon. It definitely made the most amount of sense to me, so bringing the Inteleon here is great. We're going to go for that Terrestrialization into a Water-type Snipe Shot. So they did actually withdraw King Gambit, which is fair enough. It makes a lot of sense. Get that Supreme Overlord once another Pokemon's KO'd. And they bring in Rillaboom. Rillaboom, of course, being hit by the Stealth Rocks, gets the grassy terrain back up for the King Gambit to kind of recover quicker. And we just go for that Terrestrialization. So the Terra Water is going to come through right now, which is absolutely fantastic for us. It's going to maximize our damage output with Snipe Shot, especially considering we're Choice Specs. So there it is, the big weird hat that you get on Terrestrialization. Why hats? Why hats? I don't understand. Anyway, Snipe Shot's going to come through now. Absolutely brilliant stuff. Down goes the Rillaboom. I know we're only on low HP, but we still got a KO with the Inteleon, and that's the main thing that matters to me right now. In comes Hatterene, the Rank Master. This thing is coming in. It's getting hit by Stealth Rocks. I know he can probably take a Snipe Shot, but you know what? We're going to risk it for a Chocolate Biscuit, and we're going to see if we can get the KO here. So Snipe Shot comes through, boosted by Terra, boosted by Choice Specs. It does over half, but it's not quite good enough. They go for a Psychic. That's going to definitely do a lot of damage to us. Nearly KOs my Inteleon, unfortunately. But it's not the end of the world, because we can just go for another Snipe Shot here and KO this thing, which is great. So Snipe Shot comes through, boosted by Terra once again. There we go. Boom. Down goes the Hatterene, which is fantastic. So with Hatterene out of the way, the only Pokemon they have left is King Gambit. Now, we all know how this goes with King Gambit. It can go one of two ways, and I'm hoping it's not the way that I'm fearing. In comes the King Gambit. So King Gambit comes in nice and paralyzed, nice and shiny, and nice and Stealth Rock, which is fantastic. So they get that Supreme Overlord for their entirety of the rest of the team. I decided, you know what? I'm going to go into Ceruledge, and the reason I'm going to go into Ceruledge here is quite simple. I expected a Sucker Punch there. I wasn't 100% confident they didn't have Sucker Punch. So I go into Ceruledge expecting a Sucker Punch. They couldn't move because they were fully paralyzed. That's crucial, because I didn't get to see whether they had Sucker Punch or not there. So it's kind of backfired a bit, but they didn't use it earlier when they could have done. So I'm really hoping they didn't have Sucker Punch. But I mean, what King Gambit doesn't have Sucker Punch, you know? So I decided, you know what? Let's just go ahead and go for a close combat. Let's see if we can pull a close combat off. They decided to Terra. And Terroring is probably the worst thing that could have happened to us in this particular instance. They go for that Terra Flying, which is very unfortunate. It means close combat's going to be resisted. I should have really gone for a Bitter Blade there just to get the extra damage off, but close combat comes through and it does nothing. Absolutely no damage to this King Gambit, meaning they can freely go for a Kato Cleave and destroy my Cerulege's life. Very unfortunate, but the fact they didn't go for a Sucker Punch there, again, was misleading me into thinking that they didn't have it. But then who runs King Gambit without a Sucker Punch? I don't understand. So I really didn't think they would have Sucker Punch. So anyway, Grass disappeared from the field, obviously. Best thing I can do really here is, now that it's not Steel type, go into Cash Nip, weaken this thing as much as possible, right? Hurt by the spikes, obviously. And we go for a Fake Out, just to get damage off on this thing, just to get the damage off. That's pretty much all I can think to do. So Fake Out comes through, bit of chip, nothing too drastic. They flinched, they couldn't move, yada, yada, yada. And now I decided I'm going to go for that knockoff, get rid of their item, do a bit more damage. They knocked off the leftovers, which is unfortunate. They go for a Kowtow Cleave, though, and down goes Cash Nip. I am still, at this point, very hopeful, because they haven't shown it, that I'm going to see Sucker Punch. So I'm going to go into one shot the Inteleon real quick. Hurt by spikes, unfortunately. And my only chance of winning is if they don't have Sucker Punch or they get paralyzed. But they do, in fact, have Sucker Punch. And that is going to win them the game, unfortunately. We end the Inteleon video with an Inteleon being defeated in battle. You can't win every game. You got to show a loss every now and then, right? But GG Torfex, that was a fun one.